JMath.
This is the practice video for sketching cubic functions, so please pause the video here, please try these few sums you see on screen now, and then let's do it together and mark it, and then you can see if you are ready for exams. Good luck with these. Question 1, sketch the graph of fx. Okay, so I have my list of 5 things I'm looking for. I'm going to start with this shape. So I can see my a value is -1, and therefore the shape would be a decreasing function. So for step 2, I'm looking for the y-intercept. There's no value there, so I know the y-intercept in this case is 0 and 0. Okay, so now I am looking for x-intercepts. To get an x-intercept, make y equal to 0 and factorize. So I can see in this equation, I can take out x as a common factor. So I'm actually going to take out minus x as a common factor. So x squared minus 6x and then plus 9. So lucky for me, this is an easy factorization sum. I don't need to do any of the big methods. So I can just factorize this trinomial and say this is x minus 3, x minus 3. So therefore I know minus x is equal to 0, so I can just ignore the minus, or then x minus 3 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to 3. There's 2 duplicate brackets, so I'm not going to do 2. I can just say, I know there's a double x-intercept. So to complete my list, this would be my one x-intercept, and then the other x-intercept would be 3 and 0. Like we saw in the theory video, if I have a double x-intercept or duplicate brackets, I can immediately write that as one of my turning points. Okay, so it just makes my life a little bit easier. Now to find the other turning point, I need to make the derivative equal to 0. So I'm going to say the derivative of f would be equal to minus 3x squared plus 12x minus 9. If I make that equal to 0, I can now divide by minus 3. So x squared minus 4x plus 3. And if I factorize, that gives me x minus 3 and x minus 1. So therefore, x is equal to 3, or x is equal to 1. Now we know with 3, the y value is just 0. And then with the 1, I just need to sub in into the original fx to see what the y value would be. So you can just take your calculator and sub in the 1. They're not going to give you marks for how you sub in, but let me just show you. So minus 1 cubed plus 6 times 1 squared minus 9 times 1. And that tells me the answer is minus 1 plus 6 minus 9. So minus 9 plus 6 gives me minus 4. So therefore, I know the other turning point would be at 1 and minus 4. So the final step would just be to get the point of inflection. So to do that, I just get the double derivative and make that equal to 0. So I'm just going to take this away and then say, if that's my first derivative, my double derivative would then be minus 6x plus 12, and I'm putting that equal to 0. So therefore, if I take over the 6x, then it's 12 divided by 6, so x is equal to, let's just write it out, and then I can see that's 2. Once again, I need a y value if I know x is 2, and I'm going to get that by just subbing into the original again. And now I have all 5 pieces of information that I need. I can start plotting the points and drawing this graph. It tells me the y-intercept is on 0, 0, and then my one x-intercept is then obviously also there, and then the other x-intercept is at 3 and 0. This x-intercept is also a turning point, and the other turning point would be at 1 and minus 4, so way down there. And then I have a point of inflection at 2 to the right and 2 down. I'm going to leave that till later. So now if I look at the shape, I know this is going to form a little bucky, and that's going to form a little bucky because it's my 2 turning points. And now I just start top left and draw a line through the x-intercept to the bucky, connect the 2 buckies, and then down again. Great, that is my graph. And now I can say I definitely put my point of inflection there, so I can get full marks. Remember, just make sure you label all the points that's not on axis. So this one, I must say, is 1 and minus 4, and this is 2 and minus 2. I completely messed up that 3, so I'm just going to say that is a 3 and 0 for them, and then they can see 0, 0, and the rest. So there we go, that's my graph, and for that I would get full mark. So sometimes this is 4 marks, sometimes this is 6 marks. Because we did so many calculations to find the marks, they have quite enough space to give you up until 6 marks for this question. But it just depends on your teacher and the specific paper you're writing. Question 2, they give me a new fx and they ask me to sketch it. Okay, I'm going to start with the shape. I can see there's a 1 in front of x cubed, or I can't see it, I'm assuming it. So therefore it's going to be an increasing function. My y-intercept is the minus 16, so I can say that's 0 and minus 16. And then to get the x-intercepts, I need to now choose one of the 4 big methods. I'm going to go with synthetic division. It's always the quickest, but you are welcome to do the one that you are most comfortable with. So I can put a 0 in the place of y, and then say x cubed, and see now I am missing a x squared there. please always put in x squared, even if they didn't put it there, because all the methods actually need 4 terms in your fx to work. Okay, first thing I'm looking for is to actually get a factor. So I'm looking at the 16, and I'm going to say, okay, what times what gives me 16? So it's a 1 and a 16, 2 and an 8, 4 and a 4. So now I can do plus or minus any of those 5 numbers. I'm always going to start with a 1 or a 2. In this case, I am going to go for a 2. So in the place of every x, I'm going to sub in a 2 there, plus 0 times 2, this doesn't matter because it's just a 0, and then minus 12 times 2 minus 16. Now I need to see if that gives me 0 or not. So this would be a 8, this would be a 0, this would be minus 24, and this is minus 16. So definitely not 0. Then I'm going to see, but what happens if I put a minus 2 in the place of x? That becomes a minus, 0 stays 0, that becomes a plus, and then minus 16. So these two give me 24, but negative 24, and then plus 24, and that would equal 0. So therefore, x plus 2 is a factor. So now to start my synthetic division, I make my little upside down house. I put a minus 2 there because that's what I subbed into the equation initially. And now I'm taking the coefficients of my original. Remember to put the 0 there as well. So 1, 0, minus 12, minus 16. You can always put a 0 there, and I'm hoping to get a 0 at the end, but let's see what happens. So I'm going to plus. 1 plus 0 gives me 1. Then I'm going to multiply. Okay, so minus 2 times 1 gives me minus 2. 0 plus minus 2 gives me minus 2 again. Then I'm multiplying these two, so that gives me a 4. If I add them, that gives me minus 8. If I multiply these two, that gives me plus 16, and that does give me a 0. So that is an indication that I did it correctly. So now I can say this is x plus 2. Okay, I'm just going to say 0 equals. And then these ones are the coefficients of my trinomial. So 1x squared minus 2x minus 8. And the question was to get 3 x-intercepts, and I can just factorize. So x plus 2, x minus 4, and x plus 2. So therefore, x is equal to minus 2, or x is equal to 4. Okay, great. So I have a duplicate bracket again. That means it's also a turning point. So let me just write, this is minus 2 and 0, and the other one was 4 and 0. The minus 2 is also a turning point, so I can put it at number 4 as well. And now I just need to get the other turning point as well as the point of inflection. So I'm just going to give myself a little space and then get the derivative so I can put it equal to 0. So the derivative of f would be 3x squared minus 12. Don't need to write the x, and the 16 goes away. So that was quite easy. Okay, I'm going to put that equal to 0. So that means 3x squared is equal to 12, and therefore x is equal to plus minus the square root of 12 over 3. So therefore x is plus or minus 2. Okay, so I already saw that minus 2 is one of my answers. Now I just need to figure out if x is 2, what is y? So y would be equal to, and remember I sub it into the original function, always. If I want a y, I never sub it in anything else. And if I do that calculation, y would be equal to 8 minus 24 minus 16, and that gives me minus 32. So my other turning point is then 2 and minus 32. Okay, I now also need a point of inflection. So let me just get the derivative of the derivative. So f double derivative would be equal to, and I'm looking at this one to get the derivative from. So 6x, that's it. Minus 12 doesn't have an x, so it can't go with me. So therefore, x is equal to 0. And we already have a y value when x is 0, and that y value is minus 16. Perfect. Now I have all my dots, and I can just draw this function. So now I can just plot all the points. So 0 and minus 16 would be down there somewhere. Minus 2 and 0, 4 and 0, and then 2 and minus 32 would be all the way down there. Okay, I can see my shape, and I can now fill in the little buckies for my turning points. So there I can make a bucky, and there I can make a bucky. So I'm going to start bottom left, then connect the two buckies, make sure you go through the y-intercept, and then make sure you touch the other x-intercept. There we go. That is my graph. I now just need to tell them, I know this is minus 16, I know that was minus 2, and then this was 2 and minus 32. Great, for that I will get full marks. Question 3, sketch the graph of fx if it is 1 minus x cubed. Now I can already see that looks very small, so I'm suspecting this is one of those weird tan-shaped graphs. Let's do all the steps to just confirm, or I might be surprised. Step 1, what is the shape of this graph? So I can see there's a minus in front of x cubed, so I know it's either going to look like this or it's going to look like this. I need to now just do all the other steps and see, do I have 2 turning points or just 1? And that's the giveaway to see which shape it's actually going to be. So step 2, get the y-intercept, and I get the y-intercept by making x equal to 0. If I do that, then this is just a 0 and a 1. Okay, now very easy to get the x-intercept. I just make y equal to 0. So 0 is equal to 1 minus x cubed. I can take the x cubed over and then just cube root this, which just stays a 1. I know it's an x-intercept, so then it's 1 and 0. Now to get the turning point, I need to get the derivative of f, which is just going to give me, the 1 doesn't have an x, so that's not part of the derivative, and then minus 3x squared. I get the turning point by making this equal to 0, and I can then divide by 3 and square root, and x would still stay 0. I know when I subbed in 0 into x, the y was 1. That's it. That's all the calculations I can do. And now I can just go and plot this graph. So I know my y-intercept is 1. I know my x-intercept is 1. And I know my turning point, or point of inflection, is the y-intercept. It's going to look like this. And I just need to start top left and make sure it flattens out at the one that you said was the turning point. So that shape is very far from perfect, but I will get full marks because they can clearly see where the turning point or the point of inflection is, and I'm touching all the correct points that I have to. The last question, question 4, is one of those weird questions where they just give you random sets of info. So let's analyze this. I do not know what A is, so I can't fill in step 1. Step 2, I'm looking for a point where I subbed in 0 in the place of x, and that is given to me right there. So I know my y-intercept is going to be 0 and 0, and therefore that is also one of my x-intercepts. Because if x is 0, then y is 0. So I can put it there. Now I'm just looking for any other place where the answer is 0, and that is at 6. So the other x-intercept is 6 and 0. I don't know if there's a third one because they didn't tell me anything. So now at step 4, I'm looking for the derivative equal to 0, and that's both of these. So that step gives me the turning point. So I know one of my turning points is when x is 0, and the other one is when x is 4. But now I need to check, do I have extra information? Do I know what the y value is when x is 0? Yes, I do. Y is 0 if x is 0. And they are telling me with this random piece of advice that if I sub in 4, I get a minus 32, and that's exactly what I'm looking for there. I don't know anything about a point of inflection, so I can't use point number 5. Now, I still don't know the shape of this graph, and that's what the last line tells me. So it says the derivative is negative, so remember that means decreasing, when x lies between 0 and 4, which are the two turning points. So it's decreasing between the turning points, which means it's probably going to look like this. So I can then say my shape will be that shape right there. So let's plot all the points, and then we can see the shape of this graph. So my y-intercept is 0, and that's also my first x-intercept. Then I have an x-intercept at 6, and the only other piece of info I have is that at 4 to the right and 32 down, I have a turning point. So my one turning point is at the origin, my other turning point is at 4 and minus 32. So now I can start bottom left, and then connect the two buckies, and then just make sure I go through 6 again. Perfect. So although I didn't have anything for the formula, I had enough info to sketch this graph. Just make sure they know that you know this is 4 and minus 32. How did it go with these 4 questions? Do you feel ready for exams, or do you need a bit of more practice?
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JMath.